So, hello again. This is our YouTube. This is my favorite part. Everybody knows this is my very, very favorite part of what we do at the Ageless Traveler, and that is talk to our guests. But today is even more special because we're instituting something brand new, and that is live questions from you guys. So, let me explain how we do that, and we're going to get even better at it for the new year for 2024. Right now, you can go to our website, agelesstraveler.com podcasts, and you will see a little red button with an invitation saying, leave us a question, and I will hear your voicemail. You can text it or you can simply record it. And I can even play that on our podcasts, and we will certainly answer it. And it's not just questions for me, but any of our guests and anybody on our advisory board. You'll find everything you need at agelesstraveler.com. So we solicited that, and we have today Dr. Carol Sargent. You probably already heard her on our podcast. You know that a Sargent Group Consulting helps people that have early onset dementia, people that are caregivers for any kind of individual that they love, and people who want to travel with somebody that needs care. And she's an advisory service founder that helps you do that. So I asked folks what questions they would like to ask her. And I'm going to welcome Dr. Sargent right now and ask her some of those questions. So thank you for being with us today. And we had a really good time on the website, putting things together so that you have articles on our website, we have articles on your website, and we're really making a coalition across the pond because Dr. Sargent is in London. So I'm going to start right off. One of the questions that were asked that I thought was really very heartfelt was somebody who said that this was not the first time that they were traveling with a person that needed care. It was their husband, and we'll call her Shirley, although that was not her name. And she said, Brad forgets. And because he forgets, I'm very, very nervous that he's going to not remember that we have a trip planned, and he's going to get angry, aggressive. I mean, this is the life of somebody who could be a caregiver in this world, but cognitive fitness is not the strong suit. So what would you say to somebody who has to reintroduce the fact that they're even traveling with someone they love?
So I think there's lots of different approaches, but to me, the one that actually a couple shared with me was that when they decided to go on specific holidays, they had their own booklet, their own book. And what they would do was they would write down, each other. They'd both write down, that we've been chatting about going on holiday to, say, Portugal. And then, the other one, the next time the discussion went to the next point, saying, we didn't decide about Portugal, but actually we want to go to France. And then when the decision was made that they were going to France, they both kind of wrote a contract in their book, and it was their special book about, the decisions they made to go on holiday. And I thought that was just a lovely, simple approach. And then, and particularly if it's in the individual's writing, that is key. So it's not that we discussed it and they may feel uncomfortable because they can't remember it. It's here's our book, and here's what we wrote. And yes, it takes time, but it's something actually quite nice to look back on, and you can capture then the different places you've booked and enjoyed, and have those discussions.
And pictures, could even have pictures in there. I have
Absolutely.
to say, as you're talking, Carol, don't hold this against me. Some of you know that I was a lawyer for almost, 35 years more, and that was elder law. So we used to have something called contemporaneous recordings. As things happen, you write it right down. So it sounds a lot like this. You're having the conversation. The person is in the conversation. They may not remember it later, but they'll remember because you've got this, this contemporaneous writing, and maybe even with some pictures in it. So there's an example of something that really makes a very big difference. Now, another question, and this was a very specific question to Britain, but I think we can we can see how it would apply. That was a woman from Manchester, England, who really would like to go to Rome, and she would like to go with her friend, who does have early onset Alzheimer's, but they're very, very worried about the first time of taking a fairly long trip, and particularly in the air, but even when they get there. So short trips they can do, and they've done, but not particularly long. What do you say about that?
So, that's a really interesting question, and one I get a lot in the UK because, jumping on a plane, having to deal with long distances isn't something we need to do over the pond. I think in the US, it's something that
Right, because
people
you go
do.
to Europe, you can go to, you could wake up in the morning, hey, I'm going to Madrid. What do you know?
Exactly.
An hour and you're there, right? Not
Yeah,
us.
exactly. So it's a really common question. And I think, the first thing, I would say is, consider just having a trip to that airport before you travel. Contact the airport, explain that, you're nervous, or you're both nervous about traveling, and is there the opportunity to visit, so you can understand what the procedure is at that particular airport, get an idea of how long it's going to take, because if you're stressed about you know things taking longer than you expect,
You should know it.
and
You should know it.
getting there too early can sometimes be as bad as getting there too late, if you're having to create different things to do. So that's one thing I would absolutely suggest. The other thing is, if you're planning a really long flight, I would say, okay, plan a shorter flight first.
And see
You
how.
know,
So
see how
here's
you
about
get
dress
on.
rehearsals. So
Yeah.
basically, if you're serious about traveling and you're like us, you want to be the ageless traveler, you do some dress rehearsal. And here's our last question. Now, this is the question that is most related to an issue if the person has Alzheimer's specifically. Because everything else you've been talking about, Carol, really we can relate, whether it's a physical issue, whether it's a different kind of cognitive issue, or an immediate health issue. This is specific for this, and that is wandering. I most of the questions that came into us about this was fear that the person would get lost. And we know this. Look, on our podcast, we talked about continency. Now, you're going to a men's room or a ladies' room still today. You're not going in with that person, possibly. To go in, they come out, they disappear. So there's a huge fear of that. That may be the one thing that makes people feel it's impossible. Or if you're going on your own, and early onset Alzheimer's folks do travel by themselves, it makes their family crazy that they're going to get lost. So what do you say to that? This is a tough one.
So yeah, it's I think there's lots of different options, whether you're traveling by yourself or whether you're traveling with somebody else. And in some ways it's easier, I think, when you're traveling by yourself.
It
Uh,
certainly is for me, no matter what.
But your family worries hugely about it, yeah, and friends. So, I think it's recognizing who's worried
Mhm.
and how you can give them reassurance. If use your mobile phone, you can have that so it's trackable. So people know that you've got to the destination that you planned. That's a very unobtrusive way. And that's something, we do as a family when we're visiting different places. I'm known as the optimistic timekeeper by my children, so they can track, have I really left home? So, that's great if the person is comfortable with technology. The other thing is, we actually had it for my mother-in-law, who went out and did everything she always did, even with dementia, and we got really nervous. And you can get GPSs that are attached, so you can find where she was at a given time. And she was fiercely independent and certainly didn't want us to know what was going on, so we bought one that was like a lovely key ring. and she never left her house ever without her keys. So that gave us, you know, the reassurance. And, you know, if you're away together, then, you know, it's thinking about what those situations are, like you described, you know, going to the bathroom.
Those treacherous situations.
That's the hardest one, without a doubt. So maybe it's thinking about, okay, you consider using a disabled toilet rather than the regular toilet, because it's one in, one out. And then there's less confusion about where you go when you get out of the bathroom. And, you know, it's thinking about those situations. But, you know, the technology we used, you know, we took one gentleman on holiday, and they'd been traveling on train, him and his wife, and the train split because one half went in one way and the other went the other way,
Oh,
and he went
it's a nightmare.
beside himself because, you know, his wife had gone to the bathroom. He didn't know if she'd gone off somewhere else, and you know, he had a very specific app that was on her phone and his, that let him know exactly what, you know, if she got too far away from what they set, then he would get alarms. And, you know, again, there's all sorts of really small alarms you can take that are like motion detectors that the carer can have under their pillow, that, you know, either vibrate or give a sound if their loved one goes out of the bedroom door, as an example. And, you know, there are all sorts of technologies around that that are hugely helpful. And, you know, that can not just stop somebody from getting lost, but can stop falls and things as well, if they're connected to a light that comes on in, you know, when you're getting out of bed.
And so one of the things that we have here at the Ageless Traveler is we do have a products and services section. You'll see some of them. One of my favorite is in intelligent threads, which is a way of wearing clothing so that you get less arthritis, you could walk faster. But the other thing is a whole world of technology. It's called Age Tech. And we've been involved in Age Tech for a very long time. And we'll have hints and tips and products and services for use of technology as you travel. So what I'd love you to do now, as we're wrapping up, is, do you have a question for Carol? If you have a question for Carol, please put it right in our chat, right at the bottom of the comments right here on YouTube. We will answer them on the air. We will answer them in writing. And that's what this is all about. The Ageless Travel is here to make lifelong travel easy for you, so you never stop traveling. Thank you, Carol, and thank you all.
Thank you.